Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Ring Generals podcast. My name is Nick Nenad. Alongside me is Easy Eric Santos.
What's cooking, guys?
And a little bit later in the show, of course, our MMA expert, Jesse Chapparo, will be joining us. He just was not ready at the time of recording, but he will be here at some point to talk about UFC 264. As well as Fury Wilder 3 being moved, and pro wrestling. Crowds are coming back, and that's what we're going to talk about, Eric, on this podcast too. We will get to Fury and Wilder later, and we will get to the crowds later, but of course, we have to start with the biggest news that our podcast covers, and that is UFC 264, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, and a finish that none of us expected. Some of us expected Poirier to win, but not win the way he did. And if you haven't seen it, if you've been living under a rock for the last few days, Conor McGregor broke his ankle very late in the first round on a what looked like a misstep. There's rumors that he might have broken it on a check of a kick to Poirier's shoulder. It sure looks like that, but we're not going to speculate anything. Nonetheless, Conor McGregor broke his ankle, and that fight ended the way nobody wanted to see it. There was a couple other really solid fights in this card, a couple other meaningful fights. But Eric, I want to get your comments on just what are your thoughts? McGregor, Poirier, does there need to be a fourth fight? Just give me all your thoughts after what happened on Saturday.
I'll tell you what. If you guys haven't checked out the simulations that I did with Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier did beat Conor McGregor in the simulations. And then in real life, obviously, we all saw what we saw. Dustin Poirier picks up the victory. And no, in the simulations, you did not see Conor McGregor, snapping his ankle away. So, that I don't think that's possible to do in the game. But for sure, it's one of those things where it's like, I was actually cheering for Poirier, and I did back up Poirier on this one just because of the momentum that he was gaining. And just by seeing how Poirier was improving and the fact that Poirier is just keeping the momentum going, where he beat Conor the last time, it was earlier this year. And then now it seems to me that there's no doubt that Poirier is guaranteed a title shot for this.
Yeah, right.
After this. So, there's no question about that. For Conor McGregor, it's one of those things where, the build-up for the match, it looked like it was a little bit too late because we started seeing the old Conor back. But Dominic Cruz, he put it out pretty well after the post. It was actually the post-fight where he said that, well, we already know what Conor is. We saw the nice Conor from the second bout with Dustin Poirier, and then we see him switch back to the mean Conor. So it's like, what is he? It's like, what persona is he playing this time? And it kind of messes through people's heads, but Dustin Poirier could see right through him, and so it's like, oh, you're still the same guy, just bitter. But at the same time, he said that he felt like $1 million. Conor McGregor said that he felt like he was dangerous, but it seemed to me that Dustin Poirier, just by landing those elbow shots at the end, you can totally tell that Conor was in trouble at the end of the first round. And then into the second round, a lot of people were speculating to see if Conor were to come back after that. But it's safe to say that I think that Dustin Poirier would have delivered a lot of damage to Conor in the second round. So I think that ending of the first round gave kind of a small taste of what was going to come. So I think to a lot of people, you can totally tell that Dustin, the first round, you can give it to him. He won the first round, and then the second round, I think Dustin would have finished him off.
Oh, wow. Okay. And by the way, real quick, another promotion here. Go check out those videos Eric did. Although not perfect, they're as similar as you're going to get for a video game simulation. You know what I'm saying? He got the correct winners on both of them, and Poirier won in his fight on the simulation about a minute later than the actual fight ended. And realistically, Gilbert Burns dominated the simulation and dominated Stephen Thompson as well. As we see, I believe Jesse's going to be showing up anytime soon here. We see his little logo showing up. I'm not sure if you guys see that on
I see it.
Skype yet as well, but he will be on here soon. Here he
He's
is.
coming in. There he is.
Jesse
Just in
Chapparo
time.
has joined the podcast. He's
How's it going,
frozen
man?
for a second. Okay,
Hey,
he's
hold
back.
on. Let me fix the lighting really quick.
No, you're all good. You're all good. We're only live. But no, I mean, Jesse, you're hitting a good moment here. We're just talking about the fight. Eric just gave his full thoughts on what he thought about McGregor and Poirier. He thought that Poirier would have finished McGregor off in that second round. Jesse, I know me and you talked extensively off camera yesterday about a lot of the stuff on UFC 264, but just educate the audience. What did you think about UFC 264, and just what are your thoughts after what happened Saturday and the finish, and should there be a fourth fight and everything? Just give your thoughts.
Well, overall, it was a damn pretty great card. We got to see some upsets and some favorites win. So overall, it was a pretty great card. Actually, there wasn't much problems going on, so everybody's able to watch and enjoy themselves. The one thing I did have a little issue is when they started throwing out a bunch of these celebrities. You know, they always just come out of nowhere. Like Stephen A. Smith with the Conor McGregor card.
Oh,
If it wasn't Conor McGregor, then no celebrities will be in attendance that much, at least not many. But overall, great card. But as the main event for itself, it was pretty wild. I didn't figure it was going to be ending that soon in the first round. Maybe it would have gone on further. But one thing I actually been looking at repeatedly is Conor's leg kick technique. See, as for he was kicking with his ankle, if you're gonna go for a leg kick above the calf, you go to shin, go bone on bone. Because if you're just gonna go with the softest part and the easiest, most breakable part of your leg is your ankle, it's obviously gonna be tearing up. And Dustin slightly checked that leg. I mean, it wasn't definitive like a real leg check, but it was slight. But as for that, standing wise, they're actually trading, so they're pretty evenly on the standing up game. Conor did catch him a couple of punches. So did Dustin. Threw him an uppercut, kind of backed up Conor. The one thing I did surprise, he was trying to go for a guillotine. Now that's Dustin Poirier's specialty right there. Jump the guillotine, and surprisingly, Conor was working with submissions with Dil Danis. I mean, I think he could have done a better job to secure that neck. But some things did surprise me. Overall, it was a great card. Tragic ending, but great card.
Yeah, no, I believe it was a great card too. And Jesse, it's a great thing you brought that up too. And I'll extend this too if you guys haven't heard this. Coach John Kavanaugh, Conor McGregor's head coach, also stated that something happened in training, I believe, with Conor's ankle that might have, loosened the bones a little bit. He went in there a little hurt in that specific area, in that specific ankle. So, like you're saying, Jesse, a bad technique, that's how people get hurt. It's how people get hurt in baseball. It's how people get hurt in football. It's how people get hurt in basketball as well. Bad technique tends to get you hurt because your body isn't supposed to do that. So I don't blame Conor for that. And it was unfortunate. I think with me, Eric, I have to disagree a little bit. I don't think Poirier would have beat him that quickly in the second round. Jesse, you didn't necessarily hear what he said, but I thought that Conor, the beginning of the fight with the leg kicks and all that stuff, that's Conor kind of just trying to getting back at Poirier, right? For what happened the first fight, realistically. Kind of a gimmicky thing he was doing. I don't think those leg kicks were, like you said, Jesse, they weren't even proper leg kicks. It's almost like he was doing it for show and ended up breaking his fucking ankle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is stupid idea, and McGregor just needs to do what he does. You have exchanges, you have the guillotine attempt that he held on for too long. And Poirier, Jesse, I mentioned this to you yesterday too. A lot of those elbow shots, it seemed like they didn't land as square as a lot of people thought they did. And I disagreed vehemently with those 10-8 rounds that were rumored by the judges after that first round, because I thought McGregor was blocking a lot of those shots. and he wasn't getting destroyed like people thought. Now, if Herb Dean did what he did with the Martino O'Malley fight, yeah, we might have saw him step in, and I was a little bit scared that was going to happen because it didn't seem like Conor was getting knocked out.
I did too. I thought Herb was going to step in and stop the fight, like in the mid before Dustin let it back up. The thing is about Herb Dean, you can never tell with that.
Holy shit, yeah. I mean, it's bipolar that night, right? The McGregor Poirier fight was just judged different and refereed different, which is stupid. I don't like that at all. It's almost like the referees and judges wanted McGregor to lose, which is what everyone thought wouldn't happen. Everybody would thought that McGregor would win. But getting back to my point, if you actually look right before, the fact that Conor gets back up and right before that first round ends, McGregor actually laid a couple shots into Poirier's face. He loaded up a big left. The last punch he went to go throw would have been a fight ender if he would have connected realistically.
But the thing is, they both missed at the very end. Before he snapped his tibia, both Dustin and Conor missed because they end up hitting each other, either grazed each other or shoulder. But other than that, then both of them missed, and Conor just happened to be snapping his tibia as soon as he turned and twist, and that what basically end up happening. And so it's unfortunate. It's part of the sport, but with that contact, man, you gotta learn how to throw those leg kicks because you can't just whip it just like that. You gotta whip it with technique. Because even
go ahead,
newbie.
No, go ahead, Jesse. Go ahead.
Even if you're a newbie, you have to ask the people that know better how to throw those leg techniques so you can learn from them. You gotta watch it closely. There's a lot of visual learners. MMA is a visual learning sport, and so you can just throw it at willy-nilly out of nowhere. You got to learn how to do it. You got to learn it from, the proper coaches, anybody who could know how to do those types of techniques, even for boxing. You got to learn from the masters. And if you don't learn from the masters, man, you're going to end up failing and you're basically going to eat shit or basically what happened to Conor, snap a tibia.
Yeah, no, and the older Conor gets, the less those kind of your body's going to be able to do the things that you used to. Eric, but what were you going to bring up? I was interested to see what you were going to talk about there in response to Jesse.
Well, I mean, like even Dustin was complaining about the fact that Conor was pulling. What was it? His I think it was his glove.
His glove, yeah.
Dustin, have you guys noticed that too? So it's also another factor that maybe a lot of people probably kind of dismiss and ignore. And the fact that,
there's two parts to it though. Yeah. There's one with right before that happened with Conor was throwing those up kicks while he was had his fingers dug in Dustin's gloves. Dustin also while Conor was reaching for that guillotine when he was pulling back against the cage, and Dustin had no clear space to get over so he could escape that guillotine. He had his foot unintentionally against the cage, and if you can see his pinky toes or anything, you'll see his toe fingers were basically against inside the cage and possibly grabbing. So I mean, it's unintentional, but it's part of the game, and sadly it's how it goes. But but Conor is known for that. Khabib stated it before. Other fighters have. I mean, it's no surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think that goes to Jesse, what I was just talking about too, with the fact that the refereeing, specifically from Herb Dean, he allowed a lot to go in that last fight, and it ends up, making other things happen. And so I'm not blaming Herb Dean for the reason that Conor broke his leg. I'm just saying we need to figure this out. Just because it's a big fight doesn't mean the rules need to change. Poirier's bitching about Conor grabbing his glove, but in the meantime, Conor actually could have submitted Poirier if Poirier wouldn't, grabbed the cage with his foot. So it's like these fighters going back and forth. It was a solid first round, and that's why, Eric, I was just saying I disagreed. That I thought that maybe if Poirier lays a couple shots in there and gets lucky in that second round, maybe he knocks him out. But I thought that would have been a pretty good second round. I think Conor would have came back and won that second round.
What's funny is that he was going to catch him.
I will say this,
yeah.
The one thing I will say, it always comes down to technique. Whether you're trying to cheat or not, it always comes down to technique. If you know how to execute those techniques perfectly, then you're great. Good for you. But if you can't, then you're shit out of luck, and shit happens.
Yeah. Eric, turn to you. You already stated on this podcast before Jesse got on that you think that Poirier absolutely deserves the lightweight championship shot. It's essentially been, it's going to happen according to Dana White and according to everybody else. And I think Oliveira, that's the reason he was there. He knew he was going to fight the winner. But what's next for Conor? What do you see him having to do after this surgery? Do you think that he deserves the winner of Oliveira Poirier? If it's Poirier, do you believe he needs to fight one other person or maybe even two to potentially get a title shot? What are your thoughts on Conor McGregor after he's recovered from his ankle injury?
Well, it's not that my thoughts matter, but it's guaranteed.
Eric,
that
they matter.
Dana,
Your thoughts,
it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed that Dana wants to brush it off by saying he wants, Conor to be launched into the title mix. He wants to be in there, but realistically, for me, I think it'd be better off for Conor to fight somebody else. And I think there was somebody there at the UFC Apex who got into Conor's face and said some shit to him. And I think we all know who I'm referring to, and it's RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos. So,
I thought you were going to say Ngannou or Derek Lewis.
Well, in the world of pro wrestling, that could be possible, but
oh no, wait, hold on, Razzie.
Yeah, I mean, why not? And RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, maybe if he wants a piece of Conor, that could be realistically too. But that it's when it comes down to the system and how they work things around, they're gonna try to find ways to throw in Conor in there into the title mix. As much as fans don't think that he's deserving to be in it, or whoever wins between Oliveira or Poirier, they're going to find ways to try to get Conor, whoever he goes up against. And, but I think it's better off for Conor to go up against somebody, like maybe like RDA, but that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, too. Eric, I agree with you. I think Rafael Dos Anjos is absolutely a candidate to fight Conor McGregor again. If you look at the rankings right now, McGregor moved from 5 to 7. Somehow fucking Tony Ferguson is ahead of him. I don't know how that's possible.
What?
Wait, let me not bury the lead. Rafael Dos Anjos is actually number 6 right in front of Conor McGregor, so it would make sense that fight would be next for Conor if it's possible. Now, Rafael Dos Anjos, probably doesn't want to wait for 6 months to fight McGregor. I mean, maybe he does. That's a big ass paycheck. We clearly can see. I do want to get before I start predicting who he'll fight next. I do want to say that we're hearing the numbers that possibly came out of this fight. I don't think there's anything wrong with UFC trying to get Conor the title. I mean, it happens in pro wrestling, right? They give the guy that's most popular the title. Okay, if someone wants to be boring and not talk, like a Rafael Dos Anjos, for example, they don't get those bumps in the rankings, and they don't get those spots. A Justin Gaethje who sat on his hands and didn't do much, all of a sudden is now getting skipped over twice for a title picture. There's been 2 Conor McGregor Dustin Poirier fights since Gaethje last fought. And so the guy he last fought retired. So it's like these guys that don't have the big personalities, they don't end up getting the great things. It's why Israel Adesanya always does well on pay-per-view. It's why Francis Ngannou is popular. John Jones. Well, John Jones might be kind of a bad example, but he's just so damn good that people buy the pay-per-views. But, I think with Conor, if he wins another fight and Poirier's the champion, there clearly wasn't a clear winner in this last fight, and there's still 1-1. So I think that a Poirier-McGregor title fight, if Poirier does win the championship, both guys do want the fight. Dustin Poirier said in the press conference that because of what McGregor said to him, the before the fight and after the fight, that he absolutely would fight him again, whether it be in the streets or in the octagon. So if the champ wants to fight the guy like Kamaru Usman just did with Masvidal, why doesn't he get that choice, right? If Usman can just pick Masvidal and then knock him into oblivion, why can't Poirier say, I want to fight McGregor next? if McGregor wins another fight. I will preface this. McGregor does need to win one more fight before he gets a title shot. But if he wins one fight, that's enough for me. And whether it's Rafael dos Anjos, whether it's Tony Ferguson, whether it's Michael Chandler, Beneil Dariush, you know, I think any of those guys, beating any of those guys, you deserve the title shot. It just depends on how long McGregor's out. Jesse, we talked about this before. What are your thoughts? What do you think McGregor should do next?
First and foremost, he should heal first, and then go back to the gym.
Well, of course, yeah.
Not about, look, I'll just add this part specifically because it's one thing I kind of noticed in his camp. He's always had yes men. He's never had somebody tell him, no, you have to learn how to do this.
Damn fucking right, bro.
Because, like, all he ever did is just strike. His jiu-jitsu is mediocre. I'm going to say this. He has Dylan Dennis as his jiu-jitsu coach. No offense to Dylan Dennis, but I don't think Conor listens to what he needs to hear. And so he needs to have a proper Muay Thai coach if he wants to learn how to throw those kicks, because for his dear life, he couldn't throw those leg kicks, even if he knew how to throw them. His technique was horrible. His wrestling defense is, it's like so. It's not that great because from the levels of Khabib and Dustin, their wrestling is far different levels. Just Dustin couldn't even take down Khabib. Khabib took him down at will, and so Conor definitely need a really good wrestling coach. And if his striking ability does not improve, he's gonna have to look for a different coach because Kavanaugh's not cutting it anymore. No offense to him. He took him all the way to where he is right now, but there's only so far you could go, like, until you reach to a certain point. You're like, cannot do it. For example, Cejudo said it best. He's like, there's a difference between being a competitor and being a champion. If you want to be a competitor, you're gonna have to cut out some of the bad weeds and get in new ones. And so right now, Conor's gonna have to look for new striking partners, new people who could help him get up on the level where Dustin and Khabib and everybody else is gonna be surpassing him while he's healing up. So he's gonna have to look deep in through that, and but fights with Tony Ferguson, Beneil Dariush, Michael Chandler, basically top 5 guys, if not top 10, should do it. 2 to 3 wins, he'll get a title shot for sure. The reason I say this because he's 1-3 in a lightweight division, and so he can't just jump over everybody. He's gonna have to actually earn it this time around because he hasn't really convinced anybody. But he could use that star power that he has to get those 2 wins and possibly get a title shot. But the one thing I will be waiting though is that Diaz trilogy. That's another part of the trilogy I've been waiting for. Now I was hoping to be at 155, but if it's 170, I'll be more happy.
Let me say this real quickly though. These people say he's 1-3 in his last 4 fights. Okay, first of all, that's been over 3 years. Okay, and those losses have been to Khabib, who has beaten everybody. Yeah. So nobody can claim that they beat that guy. He actually went 4 rounds with him at least. He beat Donald Cerrone. Yes, that's essentially what we just saw with O'Malley and Montanel. Right, it was a fight set for McGregor to win. He loses to Poirier legitimately, okay? Then they set the 3rd fight and he breaks his ankle. Okay, so realistically, he lost to the best fighter ever, right? Or one of the best fighters ever, and he's 1-1 and got injured. So I don't know if 2-3 fights is realistic for his career, Jesse, too. And after this injury, I don't think he's going to wait that long for a title. Could he fight Nate Diaz? Yes. Do I think that fight has the luster that it normally would have? No. But I just think I agree. What's that?
So that part I agree. It does not have the same lackluster of of basically intrigue, anything that intrigues you right now at this point. But yes, I do agree.
And let me just say this too, and the reason I'm saying this, Jesse, I talked to you about this yesterday too, is Conor McGregor. Let's say he beats one of the top 5 guys. Okay. Let's say maybe he has a fight by the end of 2021. Realistically, he probably has another fight in early 2022, right? By that point, we would have already had Poirier versus Oliveira. So we either have Oliveira as the champ or we have Poirier as the champ. I think if Oliveira wins, Conor has no claim to fight him for a title. I don't think that's realistic, right? And I think stylistically, he would lose very easily to Charles Oliveira, unless he got a lucky knockout. The other problem with this is the guy that's fighting this Saturday, and that is Islam Makhachev.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay? That is my hand-picked next lightweight champion when he gets the chance. He's going slow. He's going slowly through the division. I personally think he might be better and more talented than Khabib was. And I think that if Conor is looking at the lightweight division, if it ain't fucking Poirier, he ain't getting the title shot, okay? He's not getting the title. That's why I prefaced after Eric talked, is that it's got to be Poirier. And if I didn't stress that enough and I wasn't adequate enough, it has to be Poirier. I think if Poirier's the champion, McGregor has a claim after one win to be the champ. I know that's a little tongue twister. If Poirier loses, McGregor's never getting a lightweight championship shot. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there right now. Oh. Yeah, Jesse, if he does resurrect his career for some reason, and by 2023 he's won 2-3 fights and beaten Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson, and he's now, and whoever the fucking lightweight champ is, McGregor's just legitimately number 1 contender. Yeah, that's a different story. In UFC, that could happen if he just refocuses. But the guy's too rich. He's probably going to fight Manny Pacquiao before that. Was Pacquiao going to get his fucking ass kicked by Errol Spence Jr.? We're going to watch in Vegas. And so, I think we see Conor McGregor fight like a Jake Paul before we see him fight for a title if Poirier does not win. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that right now. We do need to move on. So, Jesse, before you came on, we want to talk about next Wilder and Fury getting moved to later in 2021. Tyson Fury had COVID issues in his camp. The rumor is that he even had COVID. So, I'll just toss this to Eric first because he hasn't talked in a while. Wilder Fury 3, it's not happening in 2 weeks. Are you disappointed? And does this change maybe your result of the fight?
Well, to begin with, I don't think, and we probably can't stress this enough, this is a match that none of us really didn't want in the first place. And so for this to happen, to be moved to a different date, it's obviously they got to follow the protocols. They got to follow everything they got to do. They're telling them what they can do or can't do during COVID. Whoever has COVID or even Fury has COVID. I wouldn't be surprised if they move it to like maybe September or November, somewhere around there, because due to how these restrictions are going and how they are dealing with it, it just depends on the fighters itself. And so and they probably need Tyson Fury to be 100%. And so, yeah, that's one of the things. And that could also give like an overall advantage to Deontay Wilder. So that could be also another good factor for Wilder to keep that in mind. Then again, it's only time will tell, and we'll probably, as soon as we get to the match itself, we get closer and closer. My mind might change about who wins and who loses. But in the meantime, yeah, it's a shame that this happened. But again, it's one of those bouts that I don't think none of us probably are excited for, which we know that we wanted Joshua and Fury. But it is what it is, and they just got to take the precautions right now. And it's too early to tell to see when it's going to happen. But for sure, if I had a month for them to prepare, for Tyson Fury to prepare, I think that they'll probably do it by the end of the year or somewhere like in October or November.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. Here's my thoughts on this. I'll answer my own question too. I like what you said, Eric. You mentioned that we have to wait for Fury to get healthy. Okay, I have known people that have gotten COVID-19 that are still being affected, and they had it 2 months ago or 3 months ago. They're still affected. Okay, so to tell me that Tyson Fury is just going to be perfectly okay by the end of the year and going to be in professional boxing shape, you can't tell me that, because I have seen with my own eyes people that have been affected by this thing for months. Okay. And I think absolutely it's kind of funny because of what Eric said, that we didn't want to see this matchup. This swings in Wilder's favor. I now give Wilder a better chance to win this fight, because if Fury's stamina isn't there because of COVID, if he did in fact get COVID and he's one of the guys in the camp that got COVID, that absolutely swings Wilder's way, because Wilder will have better stamina than Tyson Fury. Now, maybe it's asymptomatic. Maybe it's not going to affect him that much. But this is an interesting development, something we didn't think about, because I think we just assume a lot of these high-profile athletes are vaccinated. Now, we saw what happened with the NBA playoffs and Chris Paul. It didn't end up affecting them, but Chris Paul got COVID and missed a couple big games against the Clippers and late in the first series too. So, this can affect it, and I think this made this fight a little bit more interesting. Did I want to watch it in 2 weeks? Yes. And did I think that we'd kind of just get it over with really quickly and Fury would dominate, and then we'd get Joshua versus Usyk, and the winner of that gets Fury, because I think both those guys could claim a match with Fury after. But now we get two big boxing matches at the end of 2021, and we'll get Joshua Fury by early 2022, and it will be bigger and badder than it already was. Or we will have somehow Deontay fucking Wilder win that fight, and it will just throw the boxing world even crazier than it already is with the Paul brothers and stuff like that. Jesse, your thoughts on this Fury Wilder situation?
I mean, you guys already basically touched the points I wanted to touch. But yes, as to your point, Nick, it's about Fury's conditioning. It's not going to be the same. It's basically been disrupted from what this thing has been doing for the rest of basically everybody's lives, and if not ruined it. Actually, I came across this guy at the beach a few weeks ago. He had COVID, and he said it basically shrunk his lungs, and he could not breathe, and basically it was just bad for him. And then it was like his first day back. He's like, I don't feel the same as I did once before, and this is like months before, and affecting him deeply. So we're gonna find out if Fury's gonna be in the rights in the mid condition that he was once before, but I doubt it. And yeah, you're right. It's gonna lead in Wilder's favor for sure. Now let's hope that Wilder does not come out with a big ass suit and doesn't blame it on the damn suit.
And his coach drugs him, and there's a lot of things that we don't want to happen that Wilder claimed happened. I agree with you. He tripped on a mouse at his house and all this other stuff that caused him to get obliterated by Tyson Fury. It's not like he snapped his ankle like Conor McGregor. He got his fucking ass kicked, but it was because of the suit. And it was because of drugs. And he drank before the fight, like with Paulo Costa and all this other shit.
Really? I didn't know that.
Did you not know that, Eric? Oh,
no, I didn't know. I mean, wow. Yeah. This is all as a surprise to me. The drinking with Paulo Costa, that threw me off.
Yeah, no. Exactly.
I guess he and Paulo Costa are partying it up in Miami right now. So that's why Costa lost to Adesanya. So that's the rumor, but
it connects. Yes. It all connects.
But yeah, that's my opinion, and that's my thoughts on that.
All right. That's we'll have more to talk about that. Obviously, if we have more developments, if
any updates, anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Any updates, but that's what we'll say about that. We just want to talk about that a little bit. Get a little boxing in on the podcast. We are a boxing podcast. Before I move on boxing. Real quick, Jesse, you mentioned something earlier about, maybe Conor McGregor needs to move off Kavanaugh, right? He needs to move off Dylan Dennis, these coaches, these yes men. I find it somewhat similar. Now, boxing's different, but Canelo Alvarez moving off Oscar De La Hoya. Obviously, he does not need Oscar De La Hoya.
He moved away from that long ago. The only problem was it was the dispute over contract fights and money promises that were made, and so Canelo kept hold on his end of the bargain, while the De La Hoya Golden Boy Foundation did not, and his representatives in that organization basically screwed him over at like 25 mil, if not more. So he decided to go. He just waited till his contract ran up, and he was not going to negotiate with any of them. He's going to represent himself and his team, and that's it. And that's his final word. And, some of the guys from the Golden Boy organization try to get him out of there, but he's like, no, I'd rather be loyal. I'll live up to my word, and that's it. And so they've been trying to snatch him as well, but he's like, nah, I know you guys are leaving for your own reasons, but I got my reasons, and I stay loyal to my reasons. And I give Canelo 110% loyalty. So you can't find loyalty anywhere these days. It's very rare, common. But yeah, De La Hoya, on the other hand, he's just the face of the organization. He doesn't really do doesn't do the heavy lifting or anything else. He's just the name, the brand.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I just think moving off him is going to benefit his career a little bit more because he's a little happier. And in my opinion, Canelo, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's the best boxer ever. Okay, realistic. I mean, the guy is like legitimately going to be the best boxer ever. Okay, like the way how powerful he is, how he moves up and down weight divisions. The guy is absolutely diving. I mean, he's talking about fighting for free because he just wants fans to watch him. The guy is the best thing going right now. We don't have to pay $70 like we just did for the UFC to watch Conor break his fucking foot. Not that the UFC doesn't put on great shows, but just saying.
I'll throw this other point. He's actually one of the more active boxers right now to this day.
Yeah.
He's actually been having 2-3 fights, if not 4 fights a year, against guys who are faster than he is. But he still has a more power puncher's chance than any other fighter that I've seen in his weight class. And to be honest, with that kind of power, is pretty damn scary because he knocks him to a whole different dimension. He's like the Ngannou but smaller. And imagine him, Canelo, being bigger and just a badass looking guy, and just he's just gonna make everybody look silly. But no, I think he's right now by far the best boxer I've seen in a while. Almost second to none, other than Mayweather, who outclassed him in the first time around. So, but other than that, I think he's a future Hall of Famer, 110%. I believe in that. And whatever Canelo decides to do, maybe he, starts his own academy. So I'm pretty sure he has. But he'll have the best coaches. He'll make sure to overlook that. He just doesn't want to be like the golden boy, like Oscar De La Hoya, who's basically just snorted cocaine and went broke and making himself look stupid. So,
like I was saying, Oscar De La Hoya is fighting Vitor Belfort. Yes, that's true. In an exhibition fight on September 18th. And in that same interview, in that same announcement, he said that he eventually is going to fight Floyd Mayweather and Canelo.
He's gonna take a drug test, right?
No, Eric, come on. Well, you can't do that to him. He'll fail.
Dude, Speedballs. Oh, come on. Yeah, you'll get it for sure.
Let him do it in between rounds too. Let's make this fucking interesting, bro. Have Vitor steroid up halfway through the fight too, and let's just make this ridiculous. No, but I'm just that's what I'm saying. It's not. I don't want to act like I don't want to act like John Kavanagh is like Oscar De La Hoya. I'm just saying Canelo will have more success off of De La Hoya than he did with. I agree with you, Jesse. I think something similar like that needs to happen. All right. Yeah. Jesse, we talked about this last week, but unfortunately, due to editing difficulties last week, something I'd never encountered before editing this podcast, we lost all of the audio for our pro wrestling talk last week. So we'll just give the last 5-10 minutes on what we talked about. Fans are coming back. Fans have now come back for AEW, and they had their first show on the road in Miami, Florida. We had Malachi Black, a.k.a. Aleister Black, return to the company, do a big ovation. We had a big show. We have 3 consecutive big shows coming the next few Wednesdays, culminating eventually in a giant show in New York on the 22nd on the road, and obviously all out. And then WWE this coming Friday has their fans back, and at Money in the Bank also has fans coming back legitimately finally on the road. So Jesse, I'll give you a take on this first. You've already given this take to me, but the obviously the listeners and the viewers were not able to see it last week. What are your thoughts on fans coming back to pro wrestling?
Overall, it's a win-win situation for everybody, not just for the fans, for the companies. It's something that's been long awaited for since people were stuck in a bubble. You had nothing to do other than read a book or try, stay home, have a little home workouts or something like that. So just keep yourself busy. But everybody, whether you're not into sports or not, you just want to be entertained. And so, as for AEW, WWE, traveling, promoting these places that they're going to be going off to, like Texas, Atlanta, Florida, especially in those areas. People are just going to have unforgettable days because, they want to try to forget what happened, throughout the whole year through this pandemic. And, it hurt a lot of people. But, this is going to be a special treat for everybody. It's going to be the greatest thing. They had it for a while. Yeah, it's a win-win.
Eric, you have been a staunch, what's the word I should use? You've been staunch on shitting on WWE's product and essentially saying you don't even want to watch anymore. I mean, it was hard to get you to SummerSlam, and I can't even blame you, right? But
there are other things that will keep me entertained than SummerSlam itself. I'll say that. Yeah.
Well, but so I'm really interested in your opinion on this. You weren't even on the last podcast, and so I never even heard your thoughts on this. What do you think can happen specifically with fans back? Like, do you think fans being back? Do you think this is a big enough bump for both WWE and AEW to get back to where they were before? Or do you think it won't matter just because of the creativeness, positively and negatively, for both shows?
Well, even AEW has had its problems when the fans were back. I mean, let's not go unnoticed. JR has said WWE champion on AEW when fans were back. So let's not forget about that. And also, they pretty much screwed up the how they were surprised to seeing Malachi Black, aka Aleister Black, on television, and they were trying to figure out what we're going to call him. So at the same time, it's AEW. They have their things to work on, which I can be critical about. And even with fans, I feel like there's still going to be more mistakes from AEW. WWE, on the other hand, it looks like because they got the best production, they got the best announcers, and as much as WWE has a lot of crap as far as creative goes, they got the best cameraman, they got the best production. They just bam, just hit it out of ballpark when it comes on to production and the fireworks and all that. They know how to nail it. But in terms of storylines, we can all go on and on how bad the creative is. As far as fans having back, don't be surprised by having Pyro coming back and having the best lighting, the best everything, best entrances. So we're going to see that, but don't be surprised that we're going to be seeing bad creative and bad ideas in the ring, in the backstage. So don't be surprised. Just, spoiler alert out there, but it's guaranteed to happen. I'm more excited about for the other companies like Ring of Honor, NWA, and the other independent shows to come back with fans, because I really feel like NWA has suffered and Ring of Honor has suffered. Impact Wrestling has suffered, but Impact has actually had the bump with AEW, so I think AEW kind of helped Impact a little bit to be back on the horse. NWA, hopefully, maybe they'll be back on their free on YouTube and just ditch Fight, because I missed out a lot of the NWA Power stuff that they would normally have on Tuesdays, in which we're recording right now. So it's one of those things where I'm more excited for the independent shows. But AEW and WWE, it's great to have that they're gonna have fans back. But AEW as well, they're also gonna have some of their mistakes as well in terms of production, and WWE they're gonna have their same mistakes with creative. So it's I think nobody's safe as far as when they do mistakes from both companies. So yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, I have a little different view on it, Eric. I believe that I think that this is somewhat of a restart for both companies. I believe that
Hopefully.
Exactly. No, I agree. I actually don't disagree with what you say. I mean, it's just I have a little different hopefulness more than you do. I believe that WWE maybe has been saving a lot of their good shit for when fans come back. I believe AEW is maybe waiting for those specific returns and those big camera shots and the big pyro and all that stuff for when fans come back. So I'm looking at it as a complete positive. I'm going to try to watch as much wrestling up until SummerSlam when we go, up until All Out, see if it really changes. Because I think that I've been saying this from the beginning of the pandemic. Pro wrestling needs fans. Pro wrestling cannot survive without fans. And the longer we were here without crowds and legitimate touring and us being able to go to a show, because these shows have all been in Florida recently, and like I want to be able to go to a pro wrestling show, and we haven't been able to do that for a very, very long time, and that affects me. It affects me caring about pro wrestling. Like Eric, if you can't go to an Angels game, then you pay less attention to the Angels naturally, right?
Yeah.
If you can't go to
soccer game,
I don't know. Anything. Well, if you can't go to school, if they're not allowing you to go to school, you care less about school. In the summer, you cared less about school when we were all younger, right? You didn't care about school because you couldn't go. Now that you can go, you care more. You're like, oh, maybe we'll go to SummerSlam. It's close. It'd probably be a good show. Maybe John Cena will show up. Maybe we'll have Big E win the title, something like that. We can see Roman Reigns and his new character, stuff like, oh, it's interesting, right? But when that stuff didn't exist, you didn't want to watch wrestling. And for me, I know at least me and RKJ really haven't been watching wrestling for quite a while. I watched the last AEW show like much of us all did. And look what happened. We all were talking about it that night after it happened because, hey, we all watched it. Hadn't been doing that, even though we covered that in the podcast because we didn't think the creative was good enough. So I'm hopeful. I will, as fucking much as WWE pisses me off, I'm giving them their last chance.
It's clean slate for all pro wrestling shows right now. So hopefully kick off with the
Eric, I gotta hear what you're gonna say. Go.
Get ready for Goldberg to come back, Nick. So
no, fuck Eric, don't say that. Don't say that.
Hey, WWE, if you're listening, get Goldberg just to piss him off, just to piss Nick off. That's the Band-Aid to pro wrestling.
Hold on. The Band-Aid is when Goldberg wins the title. That's
I'll say this. Okay, if Goldberg is any part of this 2020, Jesus fucking Christ, I can't even talk. So pissed off. If Goldberg is any part of 2021, I just keep thinking of that video where he on Thunder where he runs the fucking post. You guys ever seen that? Where he knocks himself out on the post.
Jeez.
You guys such a moron. I mean, he can maybe kick my ass in real life. Maybe. I think I have a height and reach advantage, possibly. So maybe I'll fight him. I'll talk enough shit. And I'll just have Eric back me up with his kicks.
Personally, throw me out.
And you guys haven't seen Jesse in person. Jesse been lifting. He is massive right now in the chest area. So I think we got a pretty good fight now. RKJ's first one going now. I'll tell you that right now.
But
he's getting big.
No. But, if Goldberg's any part of this WWE run, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, good storylines, guys like Big E getting the push, John Cena coming back, Roman Reigns furthering his career, eventually getting The Rock at some point, right? Because I think we all want that to happen in Texas and RKJ Man in his dreams. So
almost as much as RKJ Man wants John Cena at AEW, it's almost like that. But yeah, it's not gonna happen, RKJ Man. I love you, bud, but no, that shit ain't gonna happen.
All right, guys, that's our podcast today. This will be released Wednesday morning. So if you're seeing this on Wednesday, you're seeing it for the first time. If you're seeing it on another day, you're day late. Why didn't you watch it the first day? We're gonna try to get RKJ Man's comments on the McGregor fight, because not only did he have a lot of things to say in the preview, but he paid $70 and the guy broke his leg. So I'm just interested to hear that part of it, because RKJ Man does not like wasting his money, and it's continually stated that he doesn't like wasting his money on things that don't entertain him. So I'm sure breaking a leg doesn't entertain him. So we're going to get his thoughts on some social media. You'll see that later this week.
It's better than paying for a prelim, so yeah, why not?
That's true. Although those prelims are better than the main event, so fuck it. Eric, finish this podcast in style. Let's do this.
Always remember, like, comment, and subscribe. But as always, raise a glass in the sky and salute the Ring Generals.